So Amit, talk to me about what native security is.
Sure. Yeah. So started native from a pretty deep experience in this space, in the security space, cloud security space, right? I was working for close to 6 years at AWS, building a lot of their security products. I met
Yep.
Gal there. He was building a bunch of security products for AWS. Eyal's been in cloud security since pretty much it existed, right? Dome 9, the sort of like the OG days of cloud
Yeah.
security. And we all identified certain challenges and opportunities in the space. A big one was that, as an industry, we were getting really good at identifying risk, prioritizing risk, adding more context to risk, sometimes even remediating risk.
Yeah.
But we constantly were failing to make this jump that everyone knew is needed towards more active defenses, more proactive preventive controls in cloud security.
Yeah.
That was like a major gap.
Yeah.
Second was, those years in AWS, building the native security stack for AWS, always identify sort of unrealized potential, right? Like there's a lot of strong capabilities built by the hyperscalers. I saw it from within AWS, but across Azure, Microsoft, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. Within each one of those products has its layers of complexity. You look across the stack, you look across the providers, very rich, robust, trusted security stack that is practically impossible for enterprises to operationalize at scale.
Yeah.
And now marry the two together, right? Like the needed leap towards more proactive cloud security, it lies in that native stack, right? You can come from the outside, you can scan the environment, identify risk, everything we just mentioned. But if you want to actually shift security down into the platform, build proactive operational defenses, you need to become an expert in all the bits and bytes, the policy engines, the network, the identity configurations across your cloud. That's a huge challenge, and that's what we solve, right? We help you operationalize, we help enterprises operationalize their CSP native security stack.
So working at huge place, how do you get the bug to start the company? Because you did extremely well. I mean, I called everybody we knew about you at AWS, including somehow your brother Quentin knew.
Yeah. He was at Microsoft.
He was at Microsoft, but like everybody we knew.
Yeah.
You were doing great there.
So my brother gave me a good reference.
He did.
It
was just kind of shocking. Glowing reference. But talk to me about like you're at AWS, you're kind of climbing the ladder, if you will, and then why choose to go do something which, like, in a lot of ways, is opting into the fact of I'm going to go start from literally the bottom.
Yeah.
Again.
I think it's two things. One is more, I'd say, like personal, and it's sort of like, I often, when I meet, colleagues, friends, and people from India, and they're very confused when they see me because Amit is a very common name in India, and they're like, are you the person we're expecting? I'm like, yeah, it's also, but in Hindi it means boundless or eternal.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about like that. I was doing very well in AWS, and I love the people I was working with, the challenges, the exposure to the customer base, all of that. But it felt like I saw the next step and the step afterwards, and it felt like bounded, and it felt like starting something of my own was the like ultimate possibility to have like something unbounded in terms of where it can go and the potential, the challenge and the potential. And that sort of like that gratification would only come from having that unboundless possibility. And this was sort of like on a personal level, that ultimate leap from a career to a life mission, to like And then on the like more like opportunity side, I just like the exposure. I got to work with practically every Fortune 100, 500, like leading guard duty was like used by over 90% of the top 100, 500, 2,000 AWS customers. Like I could get it, like be on calls with them like daily, like amazing exposure to the space where it allowed me to uniquely identify opportunities. I mentioned those earlier around like that untapped potential from the built-in controls from the hyperscalers is an opportunity to build more proactive defenses in cloud security. So I identified like the gap, the challenge for enterprises, that gap and according the opportunity.
Yep.
And I knew that the ultimate way to address that and have that impact on the market and that opportunity to succeed through that was to do it on my own.
Yeah. So it's a lot about the mission, right?
Yeah.
Of kind of what you wanted to do. It's the always the other ingredient that we talk about, and when we were talking about making our first investment in you guys.
Yeah.
Talk about the team, because the team is always the some folks have a mission, very few folks do it themselves, right? Almost none.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I guess team is like the other part of
that.
this.
That was the missing piece, because I already had that. If you married like the two, like that personal ambition and the opportunity, because I didn't want to start a company just for the sake of, starting a company, or to see, oh, there's this trend where these 4 companies or, people are starting companies around this trend, and I'll be company number 5 that does this. I wanted to know that if I'm doing this, there was a real opportunity. There was something that could be big and build a real business around it. And I had both of those early, I want to say I felt I was in the right space for both of those probably about 2 years before I ultimately left AWS and started the company. And what I was missing then was the team. Yeah. There are attempts, but things didn't click, and I knew I need like the right team with me. And ultimately I knew that finding that right fit and making it happen would come from like making that leap, going all in. So I actually left AWS.
Yep.
Moved back to Israel. And did things on the ground there, because I knew that's where the network would be. And I remember like I was Zal was a friend, and I worked with him over the years. One of my first calls back in Israel when I landed was to Zal alone, and I told him, hey, I'm here. Yeah, this is now it's happening. And he said, well, then you should meet Eyal Feingold. Yeah. And then he connected us. And Eyal was we just, I think, in our approach philosophically, intellectually about the problem space, like we hit it off immediately, and we spent a lot of time together analyzing and talking about it. And then Gal, that I knew from AWS, and we worked together, was sort of that perfect fit to complete that. And there we worked together over the years in AWS, and we bought that combined experience. So we now had a team. We had that problem space that we identified and continued developing, but we now had a team. I was coming with many years of experience at AWS building the security products there. Gal was building also security products for AWS, and is one of the sort of sharpest technical minds in this space. Eyal, as I mentioned earlier, was he was doing cloud security in the 2010s. And through that, through Dome 9, that did very, very well in the 2010s, and then was leading cloud security for Checkpoint, a large public company. So when we came together around this problem space, it just felt very. We
call it the cloud security Avengers.
So yes. I mean, and then I think we were also very well positioned to already identify a big opportunity. But I say, when the 3 of us came together, it almost didn't matter. It was like, if there's an opportunity in the space, we'll untap it and we'll execute on it.
I won't say I lived it, because I wasn't there, but we had invested. I guess talk to me about that period where you have kind of your life's mission. Yeah. And you're kind of dragging the world towards it, right? Like this, you didn't pivot around,
right?
But getting people's attention, getting that sort of period where you're in the first couple customers sort of thing is
I think
lonely and sometimes kind of scary.
I think we were well positioned to start off, because it wasn't like, oh, let's get together and ideate and start to have some customer conversations and validate. We basically, the 3 of us came, and that's part of it, right? We came from years of validation from the market of what were the gaps and what were the opportunities. So we came into it already well formed or informed to hit the ground running, but still this is new. This is it still is. It's still there is no one that does what we do, and we identified this opportunity, uniquely identified it early. And there is that, you get in front of calls and you get sometimes the question of, well, I have already a cloud security solution. Like, doesn't it do it for me? And, getting through that, or, so there are sort of like these, Eyal defines it as like black holes, like in this industry that suck all the light out of, sometime out of the conversation. But I have to say that more often than not, even early conversations felt different because we were coming with something new. And usually, I think it's two things, actually. Like, I think it's one is our experience earns a lot of trust. Yeah. So when we sit in front of a CISO and there's already, we pass a certain barrier where they're listening differently. And then two, we come with something that sounds different and already gets a certain level of interest. When we have both of those, usually that is enough for the leader we're sitting with to say, okay, this sounds interesting and different enough, and there's a very credible team here. Like, we can now call our subject matter expert in this space to join the conversation. And once they're part of the conversation, they just get it. Yeah. And they understand that this is something that is like fundamentally, it's a different DNA than what is out there today, and is needed and is a real challenge and pain, and something that is increasingly urgent for enterprises. We can talk a bit about why it's urgent in a moment. But even going back, a year and a half, almost 2 years now, a year ago, 6 months ago to today, the conversations are already different. Yeah. Like that thesis we had that we're early. Yeah. So, and we'll need to find the people that are ready for us early on, but that the market will catch up is I feel it every day now. I feel it in every conversation now.
And that feeling, what do you think is driving that feeling? Because you guys are doing a lot of the work, to be clear, but the market's changing, technology's changing, infrastructure's changing. A lot of things are coming your way. Yeah. I could articulate how I feel about it, but like, I'm sure there are things that like you feel.
I think it's two things. One is there was already sort of it was an obvious natural next step for where things were going. Mm-hmm. Everyone knew that we were in a certain level of saturation from the existing space. It's seen like incremental improvements, and sometimes like significant incremental improvement in solutions, but there hasn't been real innovation or differentiation in the cloud security space for when we started this probably close to a decade. Yeah. Like, again, Eyal was building in 2015 what were like the top solutions in 22 and 23. So there was already understanding we need to move to something that is not just more visibility and not just more, identifying risk, prioritizing and all that, but moving more towards proactive operational cloud security. So we were picking up on that trend early, and we also saw where things were going to, and that's the second thing, we saw where things were going to go was the offset of AI and how that would impact both how the threat landscape, but also how organizations work. Yeah. We were lucky. I don't know if luck is the word, but we were.
It's okay to be lucky.
Yeah. You partially make your own luck, but yes, you also that's also part of it. And to start the company already when AI was already picking up. It's not where it was today, but it was already a thing. And we saw where things were going, and we built with it, and we built for it. Mm-hmm. And we understood that this trend that was anyhow already happening towards more active cloud security is going to increasingly become a priority and urgent. When you have now AI augmented attackers in threat landscape, the speed, the scale, the leverage they have, this notion of let's periodically scan the environment, identify the risk, have a dashboard and open the ticket, it doesn't hold water. You need to put up your defenses, and you need to be active in the environment. From the inside, when you have now, your own developers, using agents, LLM generated code, operating in these environments, again, having this notion of with potentially destructive, outcomes, unintentional, like an agent deleting a production database, and you understand that you need to now architect the environment in a way that's conducive for for AI to be safely adopted within it.
Yeah.
And all of these are sort of, even the past, I'd say like 4 to 5 months have dramatically changed the priority and urgency we're hearing from the market around this.
Yeah. I guess now's the time to say Beetlejuice. If you say it 3 times, it appears. So mythos, mythos, mythos. Talk to me about what you think this means for cyber. We had like,
Yeah,
it's. I have my own views. I'm happy to we can go back.
I think
and
the
forth,
most
but-
interesting story, like I think the most interesting thing about Mythos is the opportunity that it's going to give security leaders in the cyber industry to mature.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I think we were stuck and got ourselves stuck in
Yep.
this place where we can't really do anything.
Yep.
More dashboards, more visibility, more identifying, more prioritizing, more open tickets, and then getting complaints from engineering that we're opening too many tickets, chasing those down, endless campaigns, but not really security, not really securing. You know,
Yeah.
it's more like, and it's sort of now this mythos moment. I think the big story is it's sort of a necessity that will give us an opportunity to mature towards security actually securing, because there is no alternative, right? Like
Yeah.
the alternative is it's too
Yeah.
late. I say like it's a lot of it is about like we now have to get the fundamentals right all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had to do it before, and maybe before there was a 1 out of 10 chance that if you didn't, something bad would happen. There's now a 10 out of 10 chance something bad would happen. So you have,
Yeah.
you pause there.
No. I think that's right.
Yes. So you have to get the fundamentals right all the time, and you don't get the fundamentals right all the time with dashboards and opening tickets. You get it right by being active in the environment, security, having the ability to actually produce more secure outcomes. What that practically means is like we're giving today, and this is new, like this was very early, like first deployment of the product early on,
Yeah.
initial design partner.
Yep.
Like we philosophically put the, do it for me, the implement for me button. Yes, we ask for write permissions in
Yep.
and if you don't give it, like the button's there, like
And for the context of that was GPT had barely hit when you had the implement for me.
right. We knew this was coming. We knew this was needed anyhow.
Yep.
We knew that AI would make this necessary
Yeah.
and urgent.
Yeah. And
Very soon.
the way I hear CISOs and
Yeah.
buyers talk about it is historically we papered it over with a whole bunch of sensors,
Yeah.
and then a whole bunch of people
Yeah.
and process.
Yeah.
And Mythos is basically forcing what probably would have been a 10 to 15 year time horizon change into 10 to 15 months.
Exactly.
And there's
yeah.
no,
Again,
as your point is, or as a lot of people like to say, you can't fight AI without AI.
I mean, it's pretty much exactly 30 years the last time that a human beat a machine in chess.
Yeah.
It was 96 or 97.
Yep.
And for the past 30 years, the grandest chess masters realized that there's no point.
Yeah.
And in our securing our most critical infrastructures and our data and our way of life and life, like we still think that we can put humans against machines.
Yeah.
I think it was obvious, and we saw it. I don't know if obvious is the word, but it was clear to us, and we saw it coming, and we built for that. So we put that button there, and that give us the right permissions to actually be active in the environment, and we almost as like if you choose not to use it, if you choose to not give us that permissions and to use it, you chose to go again through the deployment and the pipelines and open the ticket to your
Yep.
infrastructure team and all that, then it's on you. Then you're choosing to stay behind while the
Yeah.
train's
Yeah.
going forward. But I think, and that goes back to the big story here. I think we saw the security leaders, they see that as an opportunity to step up. They're going to their CIO, CEOs, boards, and saying we need this capability because otherwise, it's too late. It's game over.
How do you? One of the big things I talk to people a lot about is the reticence to take the people out of the loop.
Yeah.
And like, how do you lead that person to water, right? That person, that buyer has to trust that you guys are going to be able to do it correctly, appropriately? Like, how do you do that? Because there are a lot of people who say, yes, I want to, you guys do it. And there are a lot of people who say, no, I can't trust. I can trust you to do parts of it, but I can't trust you to do all of it.
I think it's a few things. One, there's like very like technical capabilities and features that you need to give to earn that trust. So when we say, hey, you can click this button and it won't open a ticket, it will go and actually change your cloud architecture to make it more secure.
Yep.
We put a lot of R&D and efforts into simulation capabilities and modeling capabilities so that we can, verify that if you click that button, it will be safe and nothing will break. So that's one. I think it's a lot of transparency. Like, it's not a black box. It's not like click this button and all sorts of things will happen. It's like click this button and you can see here exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we're going to do. It's things like having the ability to audit the exact action, so you can go back and see exactly what happened. It's things around being able to give you quick rollbacks if you need. It's things around you change your cloud architecture now because you click that button. You now want to make sure that you can monitor what is it actually blocking. So if all of a sudden there's a spike and it's actually now things are getting blocked that are impeding the business, you know about it immediately and you have a way out of it. All of those are, there's a lot of building and a lot of capabilities here that we're not naive. We don't come to a CISO and we say, hey, here's a magic button, click it. We come with this full package and platform and capability. And they try it out in one environment and was one test case and they move slowly, but within a few weeks they just trusted and it changes their whole operating model. And really is what's necessary right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned also on the people aspect. I think that's also important because I think another big piece of this is I really think like the gap, the challenge, the problem around there aren't enough security engineers or cloud security engineers. That's no longer a problem.
Yeah.
We solved that. And the way I think we're also like we're getting increasingly used in our day-to-day life, professional, personal, that move from software that helps us do our job. In effect, it often just creates more noise and work for us. To actually software that just does the job for us. And that leap is very challenging in security because it's sort of like it needs to be very well trusted. But that's effectively what we're doing, right? We're moving from software that gives you dashboards and visibility and graphs and, helps you, do the job and in effect creates more job for the organization. To software that just, you click a button and your cloud is now more secure and stays secure as the environment changes. And that is also a huge advantage when it comes to now, hiring and building and scaling teams, the leverage you can have within a cloud, but definitely across clouds. Like a big value proposition for enterprises is, we effectively built, a cloud security team program that are experts on one cloud, but we now need to operate, we're operating in 2, 3, 4 different cloud environments. The ability to use native today and effectively take your single cloud security team and not only like 4 or 5x, its leverage, but now turn it effectively into a multi-cloud security team is huge.
Yeah. I think the framework we try to use in investing in security is like the places where the cost of a false positive is unbelievably high. So you have to be almost 100% correct. And also the cost to maintain whatever you have built is quite high. Right. Those are the most important areas. Which I feel like is kind of the thing when you talk about cloud security and cloud security engineers, like that is the issue why there's not as many of them and why machines can do this better than the humans. Awesome. I guess talk to us about multi-cloud. And you build in partnership with, alongside, help deploy, help secure environments with GCP, Azure, Oracle, AWS, every which way, every which combination.
And we'll expand beyond that. And I think the broader players around infrastructure and adjacent infrastructure player in the space. But ultimately, this again, it goes back to the days of AWS. Like, I would identify, on a single product or a suite of products, like seeing the layers of complexity within it across a, stack within a hyperscaler, like seeing just the sort of like, that, the challenge for enterprises to operate it all. And then like in a multi-cloud, it's too much. Like the layers of complexity there, there aren't really there's no enterprise that's really positioned to be able to secure multi-cloud environments in a consistent way, and a cost-effective way. And here, like there's zero confusion for this. This has been consistent from, 2 years ago to today. There's zero confusion about having multi-cloud visibility, which is important, and they all have, to being able to actually secure a multi-cloud environment.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally different things.
Talk about that nuance in visibility versus security.
So you can have a tool that would, give you visibility into, your misconfigurations and vulnerabilities and issues across different cloud environments. But in order to actually architect the environment securely, build the right sort of perimeters around your cloud, what can go in and what can go out, identify the different, zones within the cloud and sort of the boundaries between them, and what environment can connect to what environment, and what service can speak with which service or application. Within those environments, what are the different baselines and guardrails and policies, what can happen, what cannot happen. Things like making sure that, your internal AI training environment cannot receive inbound internet access, or making sure if you have agents now in your production, driving changes, they cannot delete your data. Like that is actually, you have to do. It's not knowing. You have to actually, and doing is you have to go into AWS, into Azure, into Google Cloud, into Oracle Cloud, and actually, write the policies, do the research around the services, deploy it, manage it all, the different configurations. It touches identity and network. And that is, you have to be an expert in this, in doing that. And that is different than having visibility into it. It does not translate. Having visibility, it does not translate into knowing how to build secure architectures consistently across those environments. Yeah. You asked as well, like building alongside, like from day one, it was clear to us that our partnership with the cloud providers, the hyperscaler, is paramount to our success. Like we're building with them, for them, on top of them, and a big part of what we're helping enterprises solve is the challenge around becoming an expert in each one of those environments and their capabilities. It's also around the pace of change. There's constantly, every day, there's a security capability from your cloud provider that's coming out. And every day there's multiple changes across non-security related services that can impact your secure architecture. We need to know about this, right? Part of our customer promise is that if we help you make an architectural change, put a control in place today, it's going to be as effective tomorrow and a year from now. That's part of being active in the environment. You can't let things like go stale. You need to constantly keep them updated. In order to do that, we need to know about all of these changes. We have research teams that, we keep track of the things that are important, but part of it is also partnership with the cloud provider, knowing what's on their roadmap, what's coming, what big changes are coming, so that if there's now, great new capability, for example, more recently around AI-related controls and policies and guardrails, how do we know about that? So when it launches, now the security team we're working with, it's not, this just launched, we have to go figure out what it is and how it works. Using native, they enjoy it immediately and they can leverage the new capability.
Building in security's always been hard. I don't think there's any time which has created more opportunity, but also more complexity. I guess I believe, and obviously you believe, that at the end of this cycle or whatever it is, that you'll be one of the winners and one of the biggest ones. It's when you wake up and kind of dream the dream at like kind of what all of this looks like in 3 to 5 years. What looks different in cyber? Like there's 5 enormous companies. There's still thousands of cyber vendors like what we have today. Is every company a cyber company in some way, shape, or form?
I think part of what we're building on is that every when we say native, it has to do about operationalizing your CSP native security controls, but it's also more fundamentally it's around security being native to the environment. And in that sense, like how you framed it, like every company is a security company or a cyber company. Every company everywhere, definitely, and this is where we're focusing on, everywhere you're building your infrastructure, and it can be from the hyperscalers, but also to adjacent and the big model players now as well. Part of your infrastructure, there is security configuration, there are security controls that embedded in each, and that's part of where we're going with this, right? How do we make sure that natively security is built in the optimized way for each one of those environments? In terms of will there be like, I think that, I don't know, I don't think anyone, I think these days, like what's fundamentally different from asking this question like, a year, 2, 5 ago, is no one really knows, right? The pace of change is so crazy that I think anyone trying to make predictions right now is with much, probably makes your job fun, because your job is to try to make predictions about.
Thanks. Right up super easy, huh?
Yeah.
Great.
But I think what that forces us is to be constantly adaptive and listen to what's changing. And if there's a great and I think I was talking with one of your partners more recently, and I think there's sort of like maybe a group of companies today operating in different spaces, and including in security. When like the new latest capability model comes out, there's a group that are like, oh no, what does that mean for my product? And there's a group that are like, oh awesome, how can I now make my how does that actually make my product better? And I go and explore it. We're in the second.
I just wanted to double click, make sure. Make sure we're in the second.
Yes, we're in the second.
Because I think we're in the second, but it's more important that you think we're in the second.
It's totally like you can see, like we text with each other, like with the like when all comes out, like, oh amazing, let's go try it out and see what we can build with this. Internally, as we are building the company, how we can build with it, but also what we can build with it in terms of the product. But I do still think that in cyber there is the fact that there is someone on the other side, there is an adversary. It requires a constant. It requires a sort of like it's the field that requires the fastest pace of innovation. And that comes from small companies. And ultimately, I think that will continue to be the case here, but I don't know.
So you guys built a company that's basically been international since, like, everywhere, since day zero, right? Like, you have R&D in Tel Aviv. You're on the back of an airplane generally, but now based in the US. You're a marketing leader in one spot, a sales leader in another spot. Does that feel hard to you? Or I guess like building in person, building hybridly, building with your customers? Because you guys have been doing this kind of what I would say on hard mode since the beginning.
Okay. First of all, like there is like there is a center of gravity, R&D, all of R&D is together in Israel in an office that they come into. So that's a pretty classic, there is an R&D headquarter in Israel. It was also leadership there, and I think then sort of like divide of having like R&D in Israel and having like setting up go-to-market operation. It's pretty traditional. Like I don't think that's like anything very unique. I think I mean
it's fairly unique. Like most of my founders
are still in Israel.
Are like, it's not Israeli versus others. Are not awake at all hours. It was proven during when my daughter was born, like when I would be up in the middle of the night and I would message you or reply to a message. Generally, you respond. Your hours are interesting.
Yeah. So yes, like West Coast working opposite Israel. Like you want to have like hours you can work. I wake up very early. They go to sleep very late. There's so that's natural. But I think I always worked a lot of hours, and I don't think that's fundamentally different. Yeah.
What
I
do
feel like
you?
you were trying to get at to something that I didn't catch on to.
No, it's okay. I think you got there. If native is as successful as you want it to be,
What do
what
you
is it?
mean if? When?
When we're gonna keep that in. When native is as successful as you dream it to be,
Yeah.
what is it? What's it look like?
It's a real business. Like it.
I think we're a real business now, but okay.
I think we're still at a stage where we can decide to just build for an exit and all that. But no, it's like it's a real formidable business. It has it operates it's like a substantial company. But okay.
Yeah.
Um.
No, but what does it look like? So I'd say one of the companies that we all admire is kind of what the Collistons have built at Stripe, right? So they say it's a very simple message and a very simple mission, which is to grow the GDP of the internet.
Okay.
And they've done an amazing job of building way more additional products and kind of truly building towards that.
Yeah.
And I'd say the best companies tend to have, I guess when you dream the dream of native is this big, doing this many things for these sorts of customers. We have this sort of place where these sorts of people want to come to work. What does that company look like? Why does it feel like that?
Yeah. First of all, I think that point, wherever there's security, there's native. That's part of what we were talking earlier. Secure, wherever you build, wherever you're building, it could be on the hyperscalers or in Snowflake and Databricks and OpenAI and Anthropic and GitHub and wherever you're building, there's securing that means native, because it means that security is native into environment. It's sort of that always on security that is operating in the environment, constantly making sure that the environment is optimized for being as secure as it can while letting the business. And I like to think about we're in those environments. There could be now a signal coming from somewhere else in the world about a new attack that just happened, and we immediately sort of re-architect your entire infrastructure stack in a way that protects you from that signal we got from somewhere else in the world right now, because security is native to the environment, and getting security right in that world where things are moving at that speed, and at that speed means native. Everyone wants to get there, but once people get there, they realize that maybe it's not for everyone.
Yeah. Interesting.
And some people actually find out that they want to think it's a place that values substance, very no fluff, where you see people, if you walk outside of the sort of these offices where all the windows now are made out of glass.
Yeah.
And you see and there's a whiteboard, and you see people inside that room, and they're arguing, and they're sitting, and someone's walking, and he's and then you see, and then someone's scribbling, and it looks like they're fighting in there, but then they get out of the room, and they go have a drink together, and they're best friends, and you understand that there's something happened in that room and in that company that is constantly sort of getting you closer to the truth.
Yeah.
But alternatively, also, it could just be all agents doing all of this, and I don't know, maybe they'll be fighting with each other as well. But yeah.
Yeah. And then the type of people you have, the thing that the last time I was in Israel, I went to the office.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I saw one of those whiteboard moments. It was a y'all running, I think, a PM meeting.
Yeah.
Where he had two younger PMs or engineers coming in and presenting something. And he looked very angry, and they were furiously scribbling they were trying to do their homework live on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
But I guess you said something to me that I thought was pretty cool. You said there's definitely a couple people that are going to create their own companies that work here today.
Oh,
they're not ready.
Yeah.
But we're getting those sorts of
I
people.
think that's the ultimate sign of success, because it means we were able to attract the right people and then help them develop. It is, I think if we look, there's people, I hope that they stay with us for as long as we can hold on to them. But the ultimate sign of success for us is a company in that sense is the number of people that leave and start great companies themselves. Yeah, the native mafia.
Perfect.
I think also like when I was talking about it's not for everyone. It's the type of place that you're not gonna get a pat on the back for doing a good job.
Yeah.
But you will feel like you have an opportunity to stretch yourself and grow and produce and deliver results in a way that ultimately pushes you to both within native and then, as we said, beyond native, succeed tremendously in your career.
How have you stretched and grown
Yeah.
as a founder so far? Like where's the biggest area you think you've improved or learned the most?
It's around knowing how to both be able to dive in when needed, but also have the broad picture. I think here is because I've, in career been very hands-on, often also in AWS, like very hands-on with the products I was leading, is that ability to zoom out and sort of be in sync with what is going on in the industry in the broader sense of the word, and understand, okay, where does that mean that we need to go as a company? How do we need to think about this problem space and adapt ourselves to it? The world has changed dramatically. As we spoke about, like we saw a lot of these changes coming, but a lot of this, we were all surprised over the past year.
Yeah.
And being able to be connected to the trends and what is going on technologically, but also and from a business perspective, and being able to make sure that the company is steered in a way that keeps it not relevant but leading in the space is a big one. Yeah.
What's the biggest change or thing you've had to adapt to? You mentioned over the last year. Like what's the biggest one?
I think like there's something around like founder CEOs that you usually come from a technical product engineering background, and you were used to build and be hands-on with either an engineer or hands-on with engineers and product, and like deep into weeds of that, and you have to take a step back from it to build the company. In many ways, you are you remember that moment where we started the company and sort of had that first spreadsheet, and it's like, well, Eyal and Gal are in R&D and Amit is in G&A. I'm a GA, I'm G&A. Like that's but beyond that, it's like that move from like being very product, like engineering, technical focused, to first of all being very sales focused and go-to-market focused and building a go-to-market machine. It's also I like found out it's also building, and it's getting back to a lot of first principles and like and how do you actually engineer an organization and a process and bring the right people with you to do that, but effectively like build a machine, a different machine, but a go-to-market machine. That's been a big one. And then also as a company, like building a company that works together as a machine. So I think it's that move from like building products to building a company and a go-to-market machine.
Talk about the building the company part. That's like, it's quite flimsy and like kind of hard to hold on to. It's not a, did you make the number? Did you do this? Did you do that? But like, it's a how you show up. It's a, what sort of place you want to be, whether you have constructive combat, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Right. Like how do you think about how you create that?
I think it has a lot to do with the people you bring in, like, and then yes, as you said, like it has a lot to do with how you show up, how you react to things, but it also goes down to how do you set up the start to build a leadership team, start to put in like the right mechanisms and processes to make things work together. How do you delegate? How do you give trust to people?
You got asked and kind of spent about 3.5, 4 weeks over the past 3.5, 4 weeks to go figure out what's going on, right? Yeah. What can these models do? What are the best companies trying to do? Came back, thought I had all these answers, and it's kind of presented it to a group of the partners. And kind of our CEO.
Oh, you were tasked with this? You were sent to do
Yeah, I mean,
task
I was doing it myself, but
okay.
with Mythos, like I just became a much more popular guy than I was a month and a half ago. I was pretty popular, but now I'm the topic du jour.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody was kind of basically looking at me like, do you have an answer?
Mm-hmm.
And I came back with a whole bunch of different insights and all these things. And Haman, our CEO, kind of looks at me and just goes, like, this is a book report. This isn't what you didn't go far enough, if that makes sense. Like you did not take it 14 steps longer and say, if we believe all these 5 things to be true, if we believe that the models are going to get exponentially better, if we believe that it's going to get exponentially cheaper, if we believe they're going to get better and better, what does that actually mean? I think that's really hard. I think not very many people are actually working that deeply with these things yet. And the promise is so large that we kind of need to rebuild a lot of these mental models in our systems. So I guess to answer your question super directly, it has never been more difficult to do what we are doing now. And it comes back to us having only doing the things where we have the most conviction in people like yourself. Because you're going to be the people that lead us to where it is. I always say this to myself, and I always say this to other people when I'm stress testing. They bring me in to like meet the founder. I always say, are you leading them to the answer, or are they leading you to the answer that you want? Do you know what I mean? Like it's not our job to tell you what your life's work should be. It's your job to tell us, and our job to hopefully enable you to be able to go after it.
And maybe like, what I said earlier, like around, right, like the most important skill right now is adaptability. Like is to be able to.
And 100% that.
Yeah.
Like I said, talk with you a lot about it. I talk with a couple other founders a lot about it. How adaptable you are and how adaptable your organization is, while still having that kind of North Star that we believe that the problem space we're building towards is that big and that important. But the way we get there is going to look a whole lot different than it would have in the previous generation of companies. But as we like to say, it's kind of peak ambiguity time. And when that happens, there's tons of opportunity. But the most adaptable and most convicted founders generally do the best.
I mean, there's obviously quite like you said, you became like the it person right now with Mythos, because something that's clearly true is security will continue to matter and matter 100%. More, and anything that has to do with infrastructure and security is going to continue to matter a lot. It's not
which one of the things I came back with was, not shockingly, that like native is now more important, not less important.
For sure. Yeah. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like we're feeling it in the market. Like I literally had a conversation, 2 back-to-back like conversations. One was the CISO of a pretty large tech, like sort of cloud native tech company, well known. And, he was, started to say like, he already sort of had a notion for what we were doing. This was and he started to say like, I'll be very upfront. The last thing I need right now is another CSPM to tell me what's wrong. And I was like, oh no, am I going to have the conversation of starting to explain why we're not a CSPM? But then he completed it and like, what I actually need is a platform that will help me effectively manage security proactively and manage the security architecture consistently across different hyperscaler environments. And that's why I'm talking with you. Like that feeling in the market that, it now...
The customer's explaining the problem back to you. That's happening. Which is...
I was on with one of our salespeople and said like, I mean, you just had such a big smile when he said that. Because it's that. That was good.
I mean, tell me what native security does very simply in 2 sentences.
You made the call to invest in us. How would you, what did you see? How would you describe it, or how do you describe it to enterprises you speak with?
Fair enough. I describe it as native is the cloud security control plane in a multi-cloud world. How do you deploy the security tools that are innately inside every cloud that you already buy to be able to protect your enterprise in real time?
Okay. It was great. It was great.
Okay.
In a world was the speed and scale of AI, both externally attacking you and internally being used by your developers.
Yep.
Security cannot be an observer. It needs
Yep.
to be an active participant.
Yep.
It needs to be native in the environment, constantly on, constantly adapting, constantly putting up defenses, and that's what native does.
Why did you choose us?
First of
You
all,
had plenty of choices. I very specifically remember it was pouring in New York City the week after RSA. I'd giving you a term sheet.
pouring tears of investors that did not get in.
I wasn't in yet. No one was in.
Okay.
And it was raining sideways. I was walking, soaking on 20th Street in Manhattan. Why I was on 20th Street is a separate discussion. And you texted me and said, do you have 5 minutes? Which in the investor world is the equivalent of, hey, do you have 5 minutes for me to break up with you? Coming from a founder. Why'd you choose us?
First of all, it wasn't us, it was you. Like, it was like, in the end, there's like, I felt, was GC obviously an amazing brand, but ultimately I got to know you and Quentin, and so I was making it a bet on you guys. And then I think it's a combination of two things. One is like the GC brand and backing and access and everything that just going with a top tier, like large VC would give, but that's sort of generic. The more specific was the conviction and clarity that you saw what we were building and why we were building it.
Yeah.
Just like we were early was we identified a challenge uniquely and early and started building towards something that we knew was needed and that would be increasingly and more urgently needed. And there are parts of the market that weren't ready for us earlier on, and we spoke about how we're increasingly that is changing as well. Also, from an investor perspective, I knew that if I'm going into a room and I need to over-explain why this is such a huge challenge and opportunity, then that is not the and there were cases where I need to explain it and still we had options there, but that sort of very that clarity that you saw why and what we were building gave me the conviction that you were a right partner to build it with.